to show you how you can make your own floral message board. This is a fun and easy project and a great way to personalize and brighten up your space. Hey there, this is Megan. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are making a floral box. This is a box that I made using some scrap wood that I had. So it doesn't have to be, super nice. I just put it together and then I painted it. I have seen several other types of boxes, and it could be like heart shape. This one I got at Target around Valentine's Day. This one I got from a craft supplies website, and I've seen other boxes everywhere. Michael's, Home Depot even has them. There's a lot of different types of boxes that you can use if you don't want to make your own. This is another type of tray that you could use instead of making your own box. I got this one at Michael's. And it's actually like a tray and a riser. I decorated both sides and I just use it as a tray. So the one I have is about 10.5 inches by 11.5 inches. And I'll show you some photos here, how you want to put a hanger on the back and some rubber or felt feet to protect the wall. You can either put one on this side or on this side, depending on whichever way you want to hang it. So first we're going to use some styrofoam, and I'm going to cut it down and glue it into the bottom of the box. This thickness of the foam is going to depend on how thick your box is. So the inside of this lip here is about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to cut the thickness of this into 4 pieces. So first I'll cut it in half using a sharp knife and being careful. Right now it's time. I'm going to glue the styrofoam pieces. So these are all glued in. We're going to make sure that we're working in the direction that we want it to be facing when it's done. So go ahead and pick out the flowers that you want to use. This is a good assortment of flowers that I would like to use if you want to get some nice bright springy colors. And this is also a good project to use up any flowers that you have kind of laying around. So just start taking apart the flower clusters and getting an idea of how many you need to fill the space. Okay, some flowers will have a long stem, and if you take them off they'll be too short, so just go ahead and snip off the flowers. I always save these because I can use them again in other crafts, especially for making like crepe paper flowers. I can reuse the stems instead of having to buy more, so I like to save those. You can also use the extra plastic bits to put a different type of flower on to give it a stem if it doesn't have one, and then just cut it off, and then it gives a little more height. So once you get a good idea of how the flowers are going to be laid out, you can start gluing them in, and we'll be pushing them closer together so they look nice and full, and then maybe adding a few more smaller ones here and there. You can also take a look at the box from a distance and make sure that the color is balanced and looks how you want it to be. I think I want a little more light in that corner. Now it's time to start gluing it on, and when we glue them on, we want again to make sure that the level of the flowers is even, that it's all below the edge of the box or pretty close to it. I'm going to start with this big one here. If it has a long enough stem, you can push it into the styrofoam, or you can just let it sit on top. Something else I use the leftover stems for is for pushing things in when I'm hot gluing, because you definitely don't want to use your fingers. You can use your wire or a skewer and poke a hole in the styrofoam where you want your stem to go. And then I'm just going to add another piece here to make this longer. And then add some glue. When you're gluing these in place, you don't want them so close that they're all smooshed, but you don't want to see the bottom either. So that looks nice and full. Now I can go in and I can add some greenery, some ivy, Spanish moss. If I need to, I can add in a little more flowers just to make it look nice and even and full. So now it's time to create the messages for the floral message board that we just created. I have already created 4 messages here that I'm going to cut out and then glue together for my reader board. I have a photo of the actual floral box that I created just to use as a mock-up to see how the words look. You can either import a photo of yours or just measure it and use a box. Either way will work. I just like using mock-ups. Okay, so I've created these 4. So I have just hello, which is a little bit bigger than this hello. And then I have just bloom. And these, the background is just barely overlapped and welded together in one piece. And then for enjoy the moment, I have all 3 words are, the background is overlapped and welded together so that it stays together. For hello and beautiful, it's 2 separate pieces. So it's up to you if you want to design one and have it overlap however you want yours to look. It's super easy. You just type your text, you do an offset, and then choose the colors that you want. I've matched the colors up to the paper that I'm going to cut out just so it's easier so I don't forget. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. And I have my metallic silver cardstock on my mat already. So I'm going to cut this piece first. And if it helps, you can change the line color to a darker outline or black so that you can see where it is on the mat better. So this is where the paper that I have is 9 by 6.5. So all of this will fit inside of there. So I'm going to go ahead and send. And I've already welded, so I'm just going to choose cut instead of cut edge. For the metallic cardstock that I have, my the cut settings that I'm going to use is blade 4, force of 33, speed 5. I'm going to do 2 passes, and I'm going to leave the line segment overcut on. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and load my mat into my machine. I'm using the Cameo 4 with the auto blade, and I'm using a well-used standard mat. And go ahead and click send. Okay, so it's finished cutting. I want to make sure that it cut through, so just go ahead and lift up, and it looks like it did, so I will go ahead and unload. If it didn't cut all the way through and it was lifting up the text at the same time, just go ahead and hit send, and it'll cut again in the same spot. You don't want to unload the mat until you're sure that it cut through. So we can go ahead and unload. And then I will go ahead and carefully remove the outer part, and then take off the inside. You might want to use a tool. I have the pick-me-up tool or one of the other Silhouette tools to carefully lift off the text. This foil cardstock is really pretty, but if you bend it, it'll tweak, and then it's always there. So try to not bend it. So we got this first part cut out. Back to my design screen. The reason that I have beautiful and hello in a different order is to save space on my material. So I'm going to set this aside and grab the pink one. So this will be the background, and then again line it up where I have the paper on my mat, which is 9 by about 6.5. So this should be perfect. I have my my light cardstock on my mat, just on my standard adhesive mat. I'm going to click send. Go ahead and load the mat in the machine. For this light cardstock, I'm going to use, well, first I'm going to set this to cut. And then make sure my action is set to cut with the auto blade, which I'm using in my Cameo 4. Select cut. For this I'm going to use a blade of 3, a force of 20, only one pass. I'm going to leave the overcut on, and I'm going to do a speed of 4. I also have, I'm going to create a post and a printable for my subscribers that is a cut settings chart for you to create your own, because there's, especially with paper, cardstock, there's a lot of variations, and if you create your own cut settings, then you always have the right one. So I'll be creating something for that, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to cut. Okay, so again we want to test and make sure that it cut through, and it looks like it did. So I can go ahead and unload. Alright, so I just cut out the pink background for Hello Beautiful, and I would go ahead and move that off the mat and then continue with the other pieces. This is how Just Bloom would look when it's all done, but I have consolidated the light pink, so I turned the Just upside down so that it fit on a smaller piece of paper, and then I have the welded, so I wouldn't be able to change that, but I could just go ahead and cut the rest of them out. So I just want to show how important having good cut settings are. The Silhouette software comes with preset suggestions for cutting, but those are for mostly Silhouette products, and especially paper can be a lot of different, you can have a lot of different thicknesses. So these are the two papers that I used for this one, the light pink and the darker pink, and they're different just in their own. And then I also used the metallic, and then I also used just a poster board. So even the poster board and the metallic have different cut settings. So that's why I created a chart, so you can create your own cut settings and write them down, and then you'll always have them when you need them. Okay, so I'm going to show you here how to take off the paper. So you want to be careful and make sure that the centers did actually get cut all the way through. Sometimes you'll have a little piece that's connected, but this one cut really well. So hold it down with your finger. You don't want to bend the paper for the letters for the reader board. So the outer part is easier to weed off the excess here. That came off really nice. And then we have our pieces here. So this, if you were making a sign for this reader board or for a birthday cake, you would want your letters joined, but because this is the background, this has the offset and these are all joined, so we can actually just glue these on here, so it's okay that they're separated. So you can either use like a little spatula tool, or you can use, this is the Silhouette Pick Me Up tool, which has a little bit of a point on it, and then you just slowly work your way around and just angling the spatula or your tool to gently release it without bending the letter. So here's the B, and then we can go ahead and gently pop out the center piece, and then it will go on here. So we'll go ahead and glue that in. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the rest of these from the mat, and then I will show you how I'm gluing these together. This one I'm going to show how to layer these two layers with the Mod Podge. So this is the Gloss Luster Mod Podge, and I have a piece of wax paper. So I'm just going to dip the tip of the brush in and go ahead and lightly brush the my message here. Too much Mod Podge can make it wrinkle, so you just want a light coat, because we can go back and add more if we need to. Okay, so we have just a very light coat on here, and then we're going to add our text. Make sure it's centered, and then press it in place. If it does dry, you can just add a little bit more. After we've glued the layers together, we're going to let it dry and come back and do some more. So here's one of my messages. This one says, "Enjoy the moment," and I have the background, the offset, is cut out of a poster board, and then the text is cut out of a metallic, also poster board. These are both pretty stiff materials to work with. If you had, like, here's another one that I have, and this has also the metallic poster board, but then the background is, this is the lighter weight cardstock. It's kind of flimsy. Because I'm going to be putting the metallic cardstock on top of it, it's going to do a pretty good job of being sturdy, but you can also cut out 2 or 3 of the same and just stack these together using Mod Podge. Just brush the Mod Podge, stack them up, brush the Mod Podge, stack them up, and then you can go over it a final time, and then that might give it either a glossy look, or you can use the matte Mod Podge if you prefer. And then if you do that, then all you have to do is leave the Mod Podge on, place your top text, and then that would be it. That's if you want to be a little more sturdy. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to glue multiple pieces on with this one. So I have the just an Aleene's tacky glue. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze some out on my surface here to work with. So I won't need a whole lot. It's about like that. And then I'm going to use the tip of a skewer and just dip it in. And then on the back of the letter, just put a few dots of the tacky glue. And it actually doesn't need to even be on the whole letter, just in a few like outer spots to tack it in place, because these aren't really going to get moved around much. So we got a few places there. And then try to center it as you're putting it in place, and then tap it down. There's our message. Next we'll attach some wire to the back so that we can put it on our message board. For the wires, I mentioned earlier in my video that I save the bits from any artificial flowers that I use because I can reuse these wires. So it's a good way to save money and just reuse items that you have. So the wire that's in here is probably about a 20 gauge wire, and that's what you want, is like an 18 or a 20. If you go too thin, then it's not going to support your message when you put it in there, and it's just going to bend when you try to push it through. So to figure out how long you want it to be, you want to measure the depth of your box. I had said before that mine was about 2.5 inches deep, and then I know that the thickness is pretty close to a 1/4 inch, so I'm going to subtract that. That gives me about 2¼ inches for the depth of the wire, but then I also want to have enough here to glue onto the back, so I'm going to add another 3/4 inch on the back. I'm going to cut a 3-inch wire, so I can move this out of the way, and you want to use a good set of wire cutters with a needle nose plier on them, and just go ahead and mark your 3 inches. And snip it. And then we know we want 2¼ inches of the wire to be extended beyond it. So we're going to mark it 2¼ and place the needle nose pliers just beyond that and bend it 90 degrees. And this way we have our 2¼ inches here, and then we have this amount that we're going to turn it, and we're just going to curl it around so it gives more surface area for our glue to hold on to. And then while we do that, there's a good chance, if you're using this plastic coated wire, that that is going to start to break off when you do that. So if you want to, it will be easier to push into your message board with the plastic off of it. So you can just go ahead and pull that off. And it actually comes off pretty easy. So now we have just a straight pick that is, we're going to bend it so it's at 90 degrees, and we will repeat that with another piece. Okay, so now that we have our 2 wires that are bent, I have my hot glue gun preheated, and I'm just going to turn this over, and on the end, you can put it on the end or in the center of the top part of the hello, just kind of wherever you think it would be best supported. So we're just going to put a little bit of glue, and then place our wire right in the glue and hold it there until it sets up enough. And then let's do it again. This one's a little bit wider than I would like, so we can make the opening just a little bit smaller. Place our glue. Okay, now we will let this cool completely before we try to put it in the message board. So we can go ahead, set that aside, and work on this one. So that one can sit until it cools completely. This one I had made earlier, and as I had mentioned when I was cutting the paper, I made this one a little bit bigger because this one just says hello, and you could place it anywhere, down in the bottom corner, in the center, in the top, wherever you think it would look best. And then to insert, you have your 2 wires and you support them with your fingers from the back, and then find a place where you're not going to be punching through the flowers, and then have it level and just gently press it in until it's as deep as you would like it to be. And there it is. This one's ready also. So if we have, you can kind of see where we want it to be. Place this one first. You might need to move the petals away. And then just press it in to the styrofoam. And then add the top one. If you think the ends need a little more support, you can just add another support to the ends of the longer words. For a taller piece like this one, we can put 1 on the top and maybe 2 in the bottom, and that should give it enough support, especially since this was on the poster board. It's pretty sturdy on its own. So there's another one. Okay, well, I will go ahead and finish these up, and then we can just store these in a box and change out the sentiments whenever we like.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos where we have fun and make stuff. Also, follow Little Gray Squirrel on Pinterest and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see what's new.